Following the footsteps of old-school action platformers like Ninja Gaiden and Shadow of the Ninja, Cyber Shadow looks to encapsulate what made those classic games so enticing. So, does our newest ninja strike fast and true, or fall face first onto his sword? I'm Anthony from the Beta Network, and this is Should You Play Cyber Shadow? In a similar vein to the NES classics, Cyber Shadow doesn't waste any time smacking you silly. I know it's cliche as anything to say, this is Dark Souls level difficulty, but it honestly is. If you played the original Ninja Gaiden games, you'll also know how humbling of an experience they were. And by that I mean, resisting the urge to throw your controller at the wall. But man, is it not satisfying once you beat that boss or area you've died on 50 times. In terms of gameplay, it's virtually identical to the previously mentioned NES games. Though, that's not a bad thing at all. Personally, I don't believe that new titles need to constantly revolutionize their mechanics from game to game, platform to platform. If the formula is already so strong, then why should developers look to change the formula? I think you'll see that Cyber Shadow proves this point. The player character, Shadow, looks and feels just like Ryu from the Ninja Gaiden series, minus the fancy flips in air. You could sprint, slash, jump off walls, throw shurikens, and unlock a handful of special moves to take down enemies. You know, the usual ninja setup, if that's a thing. It's simple in its control scheme, but still so much fun to play. Shadow progresses through a series of chapters, fighting gauntlets of enemies whilst taking down 2 bosses at the halfway and endpoints of the levels. There's a heap of precise platforming involved in these levels, and the obstacles normally have an enemy placed somewhere in a very uncomfortable spot to deal with. So you could say that the environment itself is an opponent, and that actually is the case in some areas. One level in particular has faulty electrical wiring which can damage Shadow if he's not careful. Another has insta-death spikes that'll start rushing towards him until he escapes their reach. Just, get used to hearing this a lot.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
If you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the post notifications so you won't miss any of our videos. Each subscription really helps to grow our channel, meaning we can bring out more videos like this each and every week. Cheers, lads. Now, since Shadow has unlimited lives, and the fact that his currency accumulates after a failed attempt, you didn't worry about how many times Shadow bites the dust, because quite honestly, I probably wouldn't be able to finish this game in time for the review. Let's be real. I consider myself quite good at these types of games too, but Cyber Shadow still got me royally spanked. The bosses themselves are consistently difficult and challenging throughout, but they're never outright cheap or anything like that. After a few attempts, you'll start recognizing their attack patterns and notice the tide slowly shifting in your favor. Well, at least that was my experience with it. Maybe I actually do just suck at these games. Though that was Cyber Shadow's biggest draw card for me, learning the ropes in boss battles, whilst also figuring out the best way to advance through a tricky enemy and platforming setup. It really is ultra addictive, progressing through a seemingly insurmountable obstacle in this game. That being said, some of the enemy locations were obviously placed in areas you just knew the developer was giving you a hard time with. I got completely stuck on this one mini-boss encounter with moving platforms and insta-kill spikes, all the stuff, which practically forced me to spend my hard-earned currency on a shield attack item just to cheese through it. Some of these enemy locations definitely soured the overall experience, but then again, this game was designed by only one person, so I will cut them some slack there. Just a little. The good thing is, checkpoints are spread out in a fair and, I guess, reasonable amount. They'll fully recover your HP and SP for special attacks, if you pay for that option, and allow you to purchase the aforementioned shield attack item and more ninja goodness. They're all very handy tools that allow you to stay more on the offensive, or keep progressing at a steady pace. What's also really cool is that not all of these items are on a timer. Instead, they'll only disappear if Shadow takes too much of a beating, meaning you can use them for an extended window of opportunity if you've got solid techers. You can also find hidden pathways around the map, which normally lead to a HP or SP upgrade after you collect 3 of the same sort. So, Cyber Shadow does technically have an added element of replayability, but that's about it in terms of extra features. Now, in regards to story, it's your typical take back the city scenario you've seen a bajillion times before. I was honestly checked out lightning fast, so don't worry, I wouldn't be able to spoil anything to you even if I could. All I know is that these types of stories have been done way better before. On the cast side of things, you've got Shadow, who's a silent protagonist and doesn't really have any semblance of characterization at all. Meanwhile, the other characters just flutter in occasionally to deliver some exposition and then fly straight back out. Hopefully you like big fat walking exposition dumps, because I certainly don't. The only semi-interesting character I found entertaining was that little robot guy, purely because he made some self-aware jokes that actually gave me a bit of a chuckle. But that was about it. Moving on. On a much more positive note, the music in Cyber Shadow really pulls out that NES nostalgia string brilliantly. I'm a big fan of this soundtrack and how well it emulates those classic 8-bit synths. The melodies and atmosphere of the tracks just pump you up so much and make you want to keep fighting. As for the sound effects, they come across as super impactful and in your face, which definitely helps sell that NES look and feel this game's going for. So, should you play Cyber Shadow? That's a big yes, especially if you're a big fan of retro gaming. Cyber Shadow will bring you right back to the 8-bit mania of the early 80s and 90s. The whole experience is mighty impressive, even more so when you realize it was made by a solo developer. It's so simple, yet just as brutal and entertaining as the NES days. A true testament to how legacy-style games still stand the test of time. Guys, if you enjoyed this vid, click that like button down below. And as always, if you haven't yet done so, press subscribe and the bell icon next to it so you won't miss an upload. For more on Cyber Shadow, visit thebetanetwork.net to read our written review and check out our podcast called Games We Played That for some silly antics from the TBN team. See you guys in the next video.